Now it's time for Whispers, your number one source for all things paranormal, with your hosts Jordan Klein and Nick Queen, and produced by the lovely Lola Miller. Whispers is brought to you by West Virginia Penitentiary Tours at the West Virginia State Penitentiary in Moundsville. Unforgettable, historical, educational.
Welcome to Whispers Radio on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog, and UPRN, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. It is 6:08 p.m., about 51 degrees in downtown Wheeling. I am live at the Market House Grill down in Elm Grove. Come out and see me. I'm by myself. Got Nick and Lola both at the studio having fun.
Yeah, but you're eating.
Well, no, I'm not.
Why?
I didn't feel right without you here, Lola.
Aw. I give you permission to eat. You can have dinner.
I couldn't bring myself to do it.
All right.
I was like,
as soon as the next commercial break's going, he's like, I'll take everything on this.
give me this side.
Yeah.
Twice.
Two of these, or one of these.
I'm here for 2 hours.
Our Whisper special's still going on. We just switched to Tuesdays. That's a bucket of beer and a pound of wings for $10. $1 domestics and $2 well drinks. I got JT here with us. JT, how's it going?
Not too bad. What's
Hey, JT.
going on? What's up, Nick?
Tell everybody why they need to come out here tonight.
Oh, you need to come out, enjoy some wings, drink some beer. It's not too bad out here tonight.
It's a good crowd. Fun for the whole family tonight.
Always here.
Always at the Market House. Give us a call, 304-214-1600. If you're out of the area, 1-866-514-1600. Again, I'm Jordan Klein, and Nick and Lola left me alone.
Now,
by myself.
that's not a really accurate description now.
I guess I kind of left you guys.
You're never alone at a bar.
That's
Everybody's
true.
your friend.
Where everybody knows my name.
Yeah, right.
Dun, dun,
You really
dun,
don't
dun.
want me singing, but, you get the idea.
I thought it'd be
Now, you
good.
don't sing in your plays, Lola?
No, I do not.
You do not?
I
Oh,
do not
I thought,
sing in my plays.
I thought
I want people to actually stay and enjoy the production.
That's the problem with me.
Yeah.
Nobody wants me to sing either.
Actually, people do want you to sing, Nick. It's just more to it's like going to a sideshow freak show. It's, come here and listen to this.
You won't believe this guy.
You got to pay a quarter to watch him, but it's ridiculous.
Hey, if I could get a quarter to sing on the street, I'd be there myself. Because eventually those will add up. So now, Jordan, I was asking you about this before we came on the air.
Yeah, what's up?
Our trip to the prison.
Our trip to the prison's coming up. Tickets are on sale now at the website, whispersradio.com. You got to get there now, get your tickets. They're going fast. There's a little more than a handful left, and we're waiting for some seats to fill up. So I think, Nick, you put 15 up there to begin with, right?
Yes, I've allowed 15, and then
okay. So
we've already got 15 people before we even put it up too. That were I'll be there, So that those might already be gone. I haven't got you. You're the one that has the access to see how many's left. So you will need to let me know when we need to put more on.
Yeah. So
because we're limiting it to what, 30?
Yeah, we're limited to 30 seats, and remember we have demonologist Dwayne Claude coming out from New York. He's going to be giving a presentation. We have Herb Street coming to demonstrate his new way of investigating the paranormal, the Herb Street method.
Why do I always think of ESPN when I hear his name?
I think, what I thought of, and I didn't want to mention this because you never know. I always think of WKRP in Cincinnati. Wasn't there a Herb on there too? So Herb and Les.
And then isn't,
we still have
Sherry coming.
Sherry Break might be coming.
Yeah.
She's trying to get that scheduled off. She's a regular on the show. Also, we put out there before the T-shirts, design a T-shirt for the trip, for the event. Whatever design we pick, that person will get a free ticket to come.
And we got some emails coming in for people.
Yeah, we've got a few so far out, and we want to wait a little bit longer just to check and see how many more we'll get before we actually make a deadline. I guess we are going to have to make a deadline.
Yeah,
for that.
we do have to make that.
So we got a couple months. But
yeah, it's June 30th. So
yeah, time's a ticking, and it's going to be fun times. I hate everybody after we were sold out. Everybody was like, "Oh no, now we wanted to go." Well, right now we have tickets. So if you were hesitant, come now. Come now. We want you now. Good times.
So now also next week you'll be back in the studio, and then we'll have some music playing as our intros.
Okay.
I kind of want to start announcing these beforehand because that way people know to tell their friends, hey, my music's going to be played.
Okay, well next week's artist is going to be the Astronomers. They're a pretty popular indie band out of Virginia, and they do a lot of traveling. So some of you might have heard them. They just got a new EP released. I can't for the life of me think of what the EP's name is, but they're a really great group of guys and a girl, and they sound pretty cool. I listened to their whole EP yesterday. Do what?
They have a pizza place too?
Do they have a pizza place?
Guys and a girl in a pizza place. You're a little too young for that, I'm guessing.
I hate you.
Anyway, we've got our guests are
already
on the line.
All right,
waiting.
Nikki, introduce our guest.
I can do that. Tina Fiorda and Tilde Cameron, and I'm hoping I'm saying her name right, recently published their first book, A Book of Insight, Wisdom from the Other Side, and they wrote it in a unique way. Tina and Tilde, are you with me?
We sure are.
All right, I'm dying. Let's talk about how you wrote this book.
First, I want to make sure I get the voices right. Which one is Tina?
I'm Tina.
Okay, and Tilde, and I'm hoping I'm saying that right?
That's perfect, and I'm Tilde.
Tilde, right? Great. So that way I can hopefully get them right.
we sound a lot alike, but we'll
say,
help you out.
All right.
We'll just call you the T's.
There you go,
TNT.
TNT.
And where are you?
We're in Vancouver, British Columbia, on the Pacific West Coast.
Okay. All right. I knew the accent, and I just wanted to verify. That's all.
I didn't realize we had an accent. Yeah, we thought you had one.
See, I'm originally from Detroit, and I tell everybody, I talk like the newscasters do. I don't have an accent. You've got one. That's been a running argument all these years.
What she doesn't realize is the newscasters have accents, too. She just...
No.
I'm the only normal one.
Uh-huh.
Now, is that Nick or Jordan?
This was Nick, yeah.
I'm Jordan. I'm on a remote, so I sound a little bit different.
Jordan's the one that sounds like he's in a can.
Yeah, I'm out on a live remote. So.
Hi, Jordan.
Hi.
Okay, so let's get into this. How did you tell us about the book and how you got the information for it? It's fascinating.
Well, yeah, it certainly is a very unique method of writing a book, and one that came very unexpectedly to us. This is Tilde now, in case you're wondering.
Okay.
So long ago, in our teenage years, Tina and I started experimenting with a Ouija board, and just being kind of playful with it, not taking it seriously at all. And we continued to do this for a number of years, and found that we were actually able to connect quite easily over time and with practice. And we ended up connecting with 3 entities that would come through to us on a regular basis.
Uh-huh.
And we were given the names Melanie, M, and Demna. And they told us that they were our spirit guides, and that each and every one of us has spirit guides, and they're always with us, and they're always in the background helping us out, trying to guide us. And one day in, I think it was 2000, Tina's whispering it in the phone. Well, one day in 2004, they came through and started delivering some material to us on meditation. And they delivered about a page of information to us. And at the end of the session, they said to us that this is the beginning of chapter 1 of your book. And we thought, wow, okay, well, that's interesting. But for some reason, we didn't take it that seriously. We didn't follow up on it until 3 years later. And in 2007, we sat down, had a session, and we inquired about this book that they had started channeling to us. And upon inquiry, they proceeded to deliver more material to us. And at that time, they told us that they were going to deliver a book that was to be titled A Book of Insight, and it would contain 16 chapters, and chapter 1 was to be titled Meditation.
All right, can I interrupt you just a second?
Please.
Now, All right, I'm thinking, I'm sitting across the table from the manager at the market house right now, and he's listening to, and I'm thinking, okay, you're sitting there with a Ouija board, so, I got my hands on the table, he's got his hands on the table, and we're sitting there, we're like, okay, let's make a 16-chapter book with each word being on the Ouija. How long did that take?
It took a little while.
Like one letter at a time.
It was about 3 months. 3 to 6 months in total from beginning to end.
And you just had to sit at that table for like the entire 3 to 6. Like I can't imagine. Like because it's one letter at a time.
For the most part, we've gotten to the point where we've done it for so long that, for one thing, the planchette or the pointer moves very, very quickly for us now, and it's gotten to the point where we're reading and channeling at the same time. So they're spelling out words, but at the same time, we're able to anticipate what's coming next. So it's a bit of a cross between spelling out the words and channeling it mentally as well. And what Tilde's forgetting to tell you here is that I wear a lapel mic, so we're not writing everything down. We're reading it all into a microphone and recording the session.
Okay, yeah, that makes it a little bit easier because it's like, yeah.
So you could almost get a computer with something like Dragon Naturally Speaking. That way you spell or say it, it types it into the computer, then you're done.
Oh, that would be nice.
You should look into that.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I would like that because this is Tilde, and I type all the sessions out, so that would be very helpful. I'll have to look into that.
Yes.
It'd be well worth your investment. Now, did any how much of this did it all seem to come smoothly, or did you have to go back and re-edit it, or did it all just come like, whoa, it's done? I don't even have to, other than mistypes, misspellings from that.
Did your spirit guide use correct spelling and?
Well, yes, and the interesting thing is we did very little editing. Once the book was channeled, we read it, and it caused us to come up with a lot of questions. It created more questions than answers at the time, so we made a list of all the questions and then channeled the answers to the questions. The only editing that we ended up doing when everything was said and done was putting the punctuation in the right place. Yeah. So basically, we just inserted the answers to the questions we asked because they delivered concepts to us that were so new to us, things we'd never heard of before, and so we would ask them questions about these concepts, and then we would insert those answers into the appropriate places within the book. But other than that, they delivered the entirety of the material, and as Tina said, we just added punctuation. Yeah.
Now, I know this, I'm thinking, when I started reading about this or looking at your website and stuff, it reminded me of Jane Roberts, and I think in 1971 or 72, she wrote a book called Seth Speaks. Are you familiar with that?
Jane Roberts, we are fans of Jane Roberts.
Okay.
There you go.
Seth Speaks was channeled through a Ouija board. Well, not Seth Speaks, but The Coming of Seth, the very first book.
Okay. I just remember, I know it was Seth something, or Seth was in there somewhere. But I know supposedly he's channeled through her 20-something books and tapes and even had interviews where and I don't know if they went through a Ouija board or if it was something like he entered her or something. But do you know if that was the same kind of thing, or is this more of a like these spirits have never entered into you to speak, correct?
No, we don't channel the way Jane Roberts did. Her very first book was channeled through a Ouija board, and then from that point forward, this entity called Seth would actually enter her body, I guess you could say, and start to speak the words through her. She would go into a trance state, leave her body consciously, and Seth would speak through her. So we don't quite do it that way. We use the Ouija board predominantly. Okay. Yeah, although I did have one experience that was rather unique when we were doing a session for a very dear friend of ours whose father had passed away. And at that point, for some reason, I felt this emotion welling up inside of me that felt like it didn't belong to me. And Tilde and our friend, they were looking at me rather skeptically and wondering what the heck is going on with her. Here she is getting very emotional, and I was trying very hard to suppress this emotion that was rising up inside of me, and it got to a point where I could no longer control it, and then suddenly these tears just started coming through, and all I could do was go with it. And the board spelled out the tears that Tina is crying are my tears that I am crying through her at the joy that I'm feeling to connect with you. And that was the only time I'd ever experienced anything of that nature.
Now, Tina, I got a question for you that goes along with that. Now, you're saying that, in this instant you just couldn't fight it anymore. Mm-hmm. What do you do? Let's say something bad does come through the Ouija board, in whatever way you're using it, and it sorry for all those in the background. They're having a good time. But, how do you protect yourself? I mean, if you can't control it, if it gets too strong, how do you protect yourself? I mean, because you are opening yourself up. I mean, if it's controlling you enough to control your hands around the table, I mean, how do you stop it from controlling you?
Well, I'm very happy that you asked that question, because a lot of people use the Ouija board and they do open up a portal. And what we discovered very close to the beginning was to protect ourselves. And before every session, we do a meditation for half an hour to an hour. And before we do the session, we visualize ourselves protected by white light, and we say a prayer of protection. And this does protect us, and we've never had a negative incident. So for people who are listening who do use a Ouija board, or whoever tried using a Ouija board, I just want you to know that you are opening a portal. And if you open a portal, anything can come through. It's like making a phone call. If you pick up the phone and you dial a random number, you don't know who's going to pick up that phone on the other end. And when you use a Ouija board, you're doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, I think
so
that's
what
a good
I say
warning.
to everybody is protect yourself. Yeah, and also have very positive intent when you're using a board, because that's very important as well. Don't treat it with a game. Don't treat it like a game. Treat it respectfully, and only have positive intent. Don't try to invite anything negative, or you will get that.
Now, I know you say not to invite anything. How often have you gotten just these entities? Do you ever have trouble, I guess, dialing them up, or?
Yeah, how do you pull the same three spirit guides?
Well, we did in the very beginning have one experience when we first started working with the Ouija board, where we had an entity come through that started cursing at us. And it was at that point that we learned that, okay, what we're dealing with is serious here, and we have to be careful. And that's when we started saying the prayer of protection and surrounding ourselves with the white light. When we do a Ouija session now, we connect very easily, and we know who it is we're trying to connect with. We're always asking for the same guides or the same people, which is our three guides.
Yeah.
And so they just naturally come through to us every time.
All right, well, let's talk about the guides themselves. What was their names again?
Melanie, M, and Demna.
Okay, Melanie, M, and Demna?
That's right.
Okay, well, so what can you tell us about each one of these guides? Let's start with Melanie. How distinct are their personalities? How, they have knowledge of certain things themselves?
Mm-hmm. Well, Melanie is my guide, and Tina has two guides, and there's an ongoing joke with that. I figure she needs more help this time around, so she has two guides, and that's M and Demna. And it's interesting because every time an entity comes through the board to us, we can tell that they're a different spirit guide because of the way they move the planchette. Their energy is very different. Sometimes we'll get, one of the spirit guides will come through and they will move the pointer very slowly and deliberately. And sometimes we'll have one come through and their energy is so different that they're moving the planchette so quickly that literally at times it has just flown right off the board. So that's how we can sort of distinguish their personalities. It's usually more of a vibratory sense, I guess you could say. rather than the way we would distinguish between, our personalities here in the physical plane. And every now and then we do have an entity come through or a spirit come through that is new to us, but we seem to be protected because of the ritual that we follow and because our guides tell us they're protecting us as well. But we've had some very, very interesting spiritual entities come through besides just our guides, and one in particular is helping us write book number 2, and that was quite unexpected. So that was interesting.
Now, okay, what's book number 2 going to be about?
Well, book number 2 is going to be about the awakening of mankind, and what our future holds for us.
Now, is this going to be kind of like a 2012 type of book?
Well, I wouldn't say so much 2012. Our guides don't really focus so much on 2012. What they tell us is that 2012 is not a date where all of a sudden we're going to feel a shift and something major is going to happen, whether it's a major spiritual awakening or whether it's major destruction. We hear two sides of the coin there, the story there. They tell us that humanity is already going through a spiritual shift in consciousness. That's already happening. And it's not something that's going to happen on any specific date. So we're already in the middle of it. But, they tell us that many probabilities still exist, and we determine the outcome of, whether we do fully awaken within this lifetime or whether it takes us a few tries before we get there.
Okay, now, but how does it... Is it very much different than the book before, or can you kind of tell the same voice throughout the book? Because I know one of the things with like author Stephen King, there's always that voice there. You can always tell you're reading something from Stephen King versus something from Charles Dickens or William Shakespeare, for that matter.
Yeah.
So does it sound like it's almost the same kind of voice, I guess?
It's similar, but quite different, because the first guides that came through are our spirit guides, and the other guide that's helping to write this book, as well as our spirit guides, is a guide that calls itself by the name of Kaleem, and Kaleem refers to it as a group name for a group of interdimensional travelers. So that was
is
quite
Kaleem
interesting.
like your 3 spirit guides together, or is he like a separate entity?
Yeah. Well, Kaleem is not actually a spirit guide. Kaleem refers to itself as a group entity. It encompasses many, many entities, and Kaleem is the group name. But it's interesting because when they do come through, all of them speak in it's almost a more formal way of speaking than Tina or myself would do. And, we both joke that they're a lot more eloquent than either one of us are. They seem to be a lot more articulate than either Tina or myself. So I'm actually glad they're writing the book and not either one of us.
Could it be because English isn't necessarily their first language?
I think that's exactly it. They tell us, to them, this language that we use is just a guttural utterance. That's how they refer to it. It's just sounds that we use to express our thoughts and emotions. They find it to be a very limited way of expressing thoughts and emotions, but because they're channeling through us, they're limited by basically our vocabulary and our language. Mm-hmm. Because they just communicate through thought form and vibration.
Okay, I got to ask this, though, because you said you're glad they're writing the book and not you. Whose name gets put on the book?
Well, since the check is coming to Tina and myself.
Now, that is plagiarism, ladies.
Sorry,
I'll give them credit on the opening page. What the heck?
Well, they couldn't do it without us. Let's put it that way.
It's definitely a joint partnership. So my name and Tina's name's on the cover, but we give full credit to our guides in the book because it's really our guides who wrote this book. I mean, we just took the notes.
Well, I have a question for you, and it's it really and truly, it'll sound funny, but stop and think about it.
Sure.
If you have, first of all, do you have the kind of relationship with them that you can ask arbitrary questions?
We ask them anything and everything.
Okay.
No, they won't always necessarily give us the answer, though.
Okay.
They won't give us the numbers to the winning lottery ticket.
That was my second one, but
there you go again, Lola.
I can't help it. Always looking for an easy way. But this is my question. It's on all of these ghost hunter shows and all this other stuff, and especially when they're in Europe, everybody assumes that any spirit that is there can understand English. And my question is, if you're in Germany and you want to just, for example, and you want to communicate with a spirit there in Germany, wouldn't it make sense that they would not necessarily, especially if they're older, know English?
That's a good question, and I've often thought about that. And my sense is that on the other side, there's a greater understanding than the one we have here in this three-dimensional form and dimension.
Yeah. As an example, Tina and I are both, we have an Italian background, and we have channeled one of our grandfathers we channeled who spoke only Italian. And every time he came through to us, he would only spell the words out in Italian. He would never spell in English.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, which I found to be kind of surprising, but
yeah, that's cool.
But having said that, once you cross over language, you don't have the language barrier. You're just transmitting thought, so you can understand thought forms and patterns and vibrations. You're not limited to language.
Okay.
So I would think that when they're in Germany, doing an investigation that the spirits should be able to pick up their thoughts.
Yeah.
As well.
Okay, that makes sense. But I've just always wondered about that because they're in a foreign country, and sometimes they are talking to spirits that are, hundreds, if not thousands, of years old. And truthfully, I thought it was an American thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're just so arrogant that we think everybody needs to speak
arrogant.
English.
We are that arrogant.
Well,
everybody should know English, and everybody should.
Yeah.
Every ghost should speak English. It's,
Can you just turn off his mic?
No, I agree with Nick.
International language.
Yeah. But I don't think they thought that 200 years ago,
No, probably not.
Well, thanks. I just was curious, and since you have, you can ask these you have somebody that will answer you with specific questions, because sometimes spirits can be very, I don't know, not picky, but I know when we've had people in here, and even if it's, say, a relative of ours, and you ask a specific question, you don't get a specific answer. You get kind of like clues, and you have to figure out the meaning of what they're telling you, So go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And I found that when contacting our spirit guides as well, is that we have to be very specific in what it is we're asking, or we will just get a general answer from them. So they're very literal that way.
How do you know much about their backgrounds and say other lives that they perhaps have had?
Well, they tell us that they haven't told us what other lives they've had, but what they have told us is that they have been with us all our lives,
mm-hmm.
and that we have known each other for an eternity. And there have been times when we have not reincarnated onto the planet and have been spirit guides to them. And there are times when they are spirit guides to us. And we found that very interesting. So
you're never like alive together, I guess?
Not at this time, although there may be some times when we would have been alive together. I know that there is one guide that came through that called itself Mama. And Mama says that at this time she's one of our guides. But she said that in the past she was our mother during the Renaissance period. And Tilde and I were brothers at that time.
Oh, wow.
So yes, and that tells me that yes, it is possible that there are times when we will be guides, and there were times when we will all have lifetimes together. There's a whole world out there that we just do not know about that is beginning to reveal itself to us. And the interesting thing is, and what our guides tell us in the Book of Insight, is that mankind is about to undergo his spiritual revolution, the opening of his third eye. And we are all capable of doing this, and we will become capable of having higher powers of intuition and ESP, as it's called.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, the thing we don't know, because the human race has been asleep, is that we are divine. And that's one of the beautiful insights that have been given to us.
Now, what do you mean by that? By we're divine?
We are all fragments of the source, which is what our guides refer to as God. We are all fragments of the source having a human experience. And because we are all fragments of the source having a human experience, we have a direct connection to the source, which means that we also have a direct connection to the power, the energy of the source. And this, if we talk about biblical history, and we talk about Jesus, when Jesus said, all these things that I do, you can do, and more, that's exactly what he was talking about, because here's a prophet who walked the planet at one time, who was aware of his divinity and his connection to the source. And this is what he was trying to teach humanity, is that we are divine. We do have that energy. And as we awaken and as we become more spiritually evolved, we will awaken to the fact that we are divine, and we will begin to have access to that energy. And that's what our guides want everybody to know.
Now, I know you said before you're not necessarily looking at 2012. I think it was last week, and my days are running in just together at this point. But last week we talked to somebody that was kind of not necessarily the exact same thing, but along the same lines of that man's going towards this point where they're going to be more spiritual and connected to not necessarily the source, but maybe to this divine kind of power. Do you think it's circulating around 2012, or do you see it more as a gradual thing that might doesn't necessarily culminate then, or even totally not even connected to 2012 at all?
Well, I think 2012 is it's more to do with the Mayan calendar. Our guides tell us that definitely there is a connection with 2012 in that basically that our awakening is starting to speed up right now. Time is speeding up. These shifts in consciousness are starting to speed up. Things are happening more quickly now. But as to whether or not that particular date means that there's going to be a sudden shift when we hit December 21st, 2012, they tell us that there is not going to be a sudden shift on that date. The shift that is connected to 2012 is already happening. And, when you talk about Earth changes, there are people that think that we're going to see major Earth changes and catastrophes happen around December 21st, 2012, but we're already seeing Earth changes. We're already in the middle of all that, so it's not going to be one huge climactic thing that's going to happen on one date.
Sure.
We're already in the middle of it.
We've actually heard that several times. People don't think that it's going to be, that day, something bad's going to happen. It's just going to be, a gradual change. And I think, like Nick said, our guest last week said it's been happening for like 30 years. I believe.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, gradual change is what most people are saying it is.
Yeah, 2012, what we will see happen 2012 is a planetary alignment. That's the main thing that they're expecting to see December 21st, 2012 is this planetary alignment. But the shift itself, that's ongoing. We've, humanity has been evolving since the beginning of time, since we first stepped onto the planet. We've been in a continuing process of evolution. So that's been going on forever. It just happens that at this particular point in time, we're seeing things speed up now. And we notice it as well, as an example, your radio show. There was a time maybe 5 to 10 years ago where we couldn't even discuss these types of topics. You wouldn't see many, you wouldn't see radio shows like yours on the air. Whereas now, we're seeing, you talked about the paranormal shows on TV, the ghost hunting shows, all of that kind of thing. We're seeing so much more of it, and it's actually becoming mainstream now. And there was a time where we probably would have been hung or burned at the stake for putting out a book like this. And now it's just becoming more mainstream.
Now, I know there was a question on the chat room from M. Marilio, and I'm hoping I'm saying the name right, but he said, what do you mean by shifts? Then he said trance. Are you talking more like a paradigm kind of shift or something else?
A paradigm shift, yes, and that is happening now because, and in the shift in awareness, because what our guides tell us is that mankind's evolution is meant to evolve spiritually because we are spiritual beings. And this is all part of the shift. And people talk about 2012 being, as Tilde was saying, the date. But it's happening now. People are becoming more aware. People are becoming more spiritual. People are beginning to realize what's happening on our planet. And they're not asleep anymore. They're waking up. And that's part of what our guides are talking about when they talk about the shift.
Yeah, and I think people are also starting to remember that we are actually spiritual beings. We forget. We're so caught up in our day-to-day reality that we think that all that we are is this physical being living out this physical existence here on this physical planet. We are spirit first and foremost. And as spirit, we are intuitive beings. That's a natural part of who we are, our intuition. As spiritual beings, our natural senses are psychic senses, what we refer to as sixth senses. And I think more and more people are also starting to become aware of that. That's starting to pick up a little more. You're seeing a lot more meditation classes, people getting into yoga, spiritual practices that remind us of who we really are. And that's all part of it.
Well, see, and I think somebody brought up one time about indigo children. That's also part of this, that the kids that are being born now are either developing their intuitions and their empathies far more than kids did in the past, say, of our generation, but they also think it has something to do with this shift that's going to, or that is occurring, and that's why we're getting kids that are being born with this intuitiveness, if nothing even greater.
That's exactly it. And our guides have told us in the books that all of us that are here on this planet today are here because of what is happening, and we're all part of it. And the indigo children and the psychic children that are being born now are part of our future evolution. And what our guides tell us, too, is they want us to meditate, because we really undervalue the importance of meditation. And as we continue to meditate, we will continue to open our third eye, to open our psychic awareness, and to open our connection with the source in order to continue this evolution. And what they tell us, too, is that as we evolve spiritually, our DNA will activate to generate many of the subtle senses that currently lie dormant within us. So this is very important, and they tell us that this is our destiny. And so we need to remember that this is our destiny, and also we need to stop living in fear. And we need to remember that our thoughts, our beliefs, they all have energy. And what you think, what you believe, you will attract. So we really need to come together as a humanity, and we need to focus on our oneness. We need to focus on our beautiful future, on our beautiful awakening. And in focusing on that, we will attract that instead of the fear that we're being fed through, let's say, Hollywood movies 2012, because That's what they make money on. They don't make money on beautiful, love, touchy-feely movies. They make money on movies like Fear-mongering 2012. So we need to remember that. And I know because I work in the film business, so I can say that.
Now, for something that I was found kind of interesting going through the outline of your book was reality, which is chapter 10, and you talk about the reason for the creation of planet Earth and so forth that your guides had mentioned. And the first sentence is that reality is but, or at least in this, is reality is but an illusion of collusion. So are you trying to say, but are you sort of saying that that in essence we all kind of created planet Earth as a place for us to exist, or am I totally off? Or
no, that's exactly it.
Okay.
We, or the source, we as fragments of the source, created planet Earth as one avenue of experience and expression. They tell us that the source is on a journey of self-discovery. And so this particular planet is one of many planets, one of many realities, many dimensions, universes that was created by the source as a way of experiencing reality and coming to a place of self-actualization, which is all-knowingness, all-awareness. Because the source, our guides tell us, is not static. The source also it continues to create and learn or experience through its creations. So this particular planet happens to be a three-dimensional planet. We're having a three-dimensional experience on this planet, but there are also other dimensions that exist where there are other beings having their own types of experiences there.
Well, like you mentioned here, dinosaurs. What exactly was the purpose, I guess, of the age of dinosaurs in our evolution?
The purpose of the dinosaurs, our guides tell us, was to begin to create an experience of reality. For instance, were solely animals that lived on instinct, and once the source experienced it on that level, the source was ready to move on to the next level, which was the level of logic. And so it's taking baby steps, one step at a time, before it evolves to the greater concept of reality.
Okay, now how about alternate realities themselves? A lot of people feel that there are other, I guess, parallel creations or worlds that kind of stacked on top of our own. Goes into maybe shadow people that might be actually in the same kind of existence, but just maybe a shift left or right. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No, I'm sorry. I coughed a little bit.
That's all right. Yeah, there's a chapter in our book called Alternate Realities, and our guides talk about all the different realities and dimensions that exist concurrently with our particular reality and dimension. And one of the interesting things they talk about is how they refer to these alternate realities as probable realities. And what they tell us is that every single probability that could play itself out already exists in another dimension. Therefore, there are actually versions of ourselves, probable selves, that also exist in these other realities or dimensions. And so there are copies of ourselves. They're exact copies except for very minor differences. Perhaps a difference may be that in another reality I exist as a doctor or a musician or whatever it may be. And all of these realities play themselves out, and they're all for the purpose of the source experiencing reality on many different levels. And that was one of the concepts that was really new to Tina and myself. And I think it was about 2 months ago, I saw a program. It was on the internet, and it was a documentary on quantum physics. And there were a number of well-known quantum scientists that were discussing this very concept. And they were basically saying the same thing, that these probable realities do exist. That wasn't
there was no question in their minds. The only question was how many of them are there.
Now, do you think that this is kind of what deja vu comes from? I've heard people say that that's just the other, dimensions.
It could very well be. It could be just a brief glimpse into another dimension, or a brief remembrance of one of those probable realities.
I totally believe that, because I deep down I have to believe that in another dimension, another reality, that Jessica Alba and I are together.
This is a fantasy reality.
But you know what? That fantasy reality exists.
Thank you.
You just made his day.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
I have the biggest grin on my face right now.
You have hooked up with her in another reality.
Woo!
Oh my God, John Blackmore will be so jealous.
I hope
it's okay, because he's hooked up with her too in another reality.
Yeah, come on now.
So it's all good.
And I'm not even going to go there.
Well, this is almost reminiscent of one of the subplots of Fringe on Fox, that weekly show, where everything is that there are at least two parallel universes, and the premise behind it is once that they develop a way of breaking through that thin veil and getting over there. But you have to keep both sides equal. If something from here goes there, something from there has to come here, and you have to keep it equal.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's a fast. I mean, aside from like they're chasing kind of monstrous things once in a while, that part of the show is so fascinating, because that's kind of the turn that Lost has taken now in this final season, that there's, several realities going on at once.
Don't give it away too much. Nikki hasn't seen it.
But
let's not talk about Lost.
What's really interesting is that a lot of these TV shows, I remember watching the original Star Trek, or the Star Trek that's happening now, and the concepts become reality. And a lot of these shows, they do delve into concepts that eventually become proven or become our reality. So it's very fascinating that these shows are delving into these concepts.
Now, do you think that's because that perhaps, like you said, we're all going towards this, that these ideas are starting to come to fruition, and these directors or producers or writers are expressing their beginning understanding of this?
I think so. And or I think that they're trying to alert us in their own way to let us know, and this is how they can do it without coming right out and saying, "Hey, people, this is what's possible." If we watch it on TV, the more we watch it on TV, the more we become used to it. The more we become used to the concept, and once it becomes a reality, we're not floored by it. We accept it more readily.
Uh-huh. Now, I believe we are running out of time.
Yes,
ladies.
we are, darn it.
I do want to say we have your book available on our website. We have it linked up so that our listeners can buy it. That's whispersradio.com. Nick usually got, if you have any websites out there, do you have a website?
Yes, you can also get a signed copy of our book at abookofinsight.com.
Abookofinsight.com.
Yeah, and we're available through amazon.com.ca as well as barnesandnoble.com.
Okay, Nick, are you linked up
come
through
visit us
Amazon?
on
Yeah,
Facebook.
it's all linked.
Oh, are you on Facebook?
Yes.
Okay, so are we.
And we've got a YouTube channel.
There we go.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah,
great.
if you'll send me those links, I'll add them tonight.
And we'll make sure those get on our website. That way, any of our listeners that listen to the recorded show can catch up with you guys.
Perfect.
Thank you guys very, very much. You have a really interesting story.
This has been fascinating.
Very
this has been a
interesting
blast
way of
for us.
writing this. My brain's still trying to wrap around it all.
Hey, so is ours.
So is ours.
But, sorry, I'm joking.
That's okay. He gets speechless like this all the time.
Oh,
So.
I like you guys so much. I'm
He's
getting
still
choked
thinking
up
about
because I have to say
Jessica.
goodbye.
Yeah, don't let him fool you. Yeah.
He's still choked up over the Jessica Alba thing. Don't let him fool you about that.
You made my day.
I'm glad.
All right, ladies. Like I said, thank you very much, and we'll be getting in touch with you again, especially when that new book comes out. We want to make sure that we do some promoting with you on it.
Love it. Thank you so much
Thank you
both
very
of
much
us.
for coming on.
Thank you.
Ladies,
Our
thank
pleasure.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Wow.
So what do you think, Lola? You think you're going to be able to write a book with a Ouija board now?
You know what, though? I have been so leery of Ouija boards, and yet as they were talking, I was thinking, yeah, I don't have one anymore. I mean, I pitched it a long time ago, but,
I'm still unsettled.
I know. Maybe if you go through the steps of, the protective prayer and things like that, but I would rather be with them one time because they have guides that, their link is established, and I would be less leery.
See where I'm at, though, I mean, they even said, she said, it is a portal, and you have no clue what's going to come back.
Yeah,
I mean,
know.
Whatever they're talking to could just say, what was the group that calls itself one thing? I forget its name.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
Khalil
about.
or something like that.
Yeah.
Isn't that Superman's dad's name?
Kind of.
Okay, but I'm thinking like whenever she said that, I was thinking like we are legion, we are many, from the demon possessed.
Yeah.
And that's what I kept thinking. I was like, oh my gosh, because you could say whatever you want to say you are, but.
Well, there's no guarantee that a spirit that you've been, you have no guarantee even on Facebook if you're actually talking to somebody that you know.
Like,
but
man, I'm talking to a really pretty girl on Facebook.
Yeah,
really
look at you were already having an affair with Jessica.
Guy,
and it's Jordan.
And it's me.
Yeah. But I find that whole thing really fascinating, and the thought that somebody is trying to pass a real message of substance to us that I find that whole thing fascinating. But I would love to sit down with them and let them control it.
That way, if anybody gets
that's right
possessed, it's them and not you.
Yeah, I'm thinking that. Yeah.
I hear you.
But okay, we need to take a break.
All right, everybody, you are listening to Whispers Radio on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog, UPRN, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. It is time for CNN, and then we will be right back. Tuned. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Whispers Radio here on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog, and UPRN, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. It is 7:08. I have no clue what the temperature is. What's the temperature at, Lola?
Cold.
It's cold outside.
Well, actually, it's
51 degrees, it says over here.
Still 51?
Well, but it's windy, windy. But I'll tell you honestly, it felt warmer when I left to come back here at 5:45 than it did when I left here at 3:30. I think because the sun is out.
Well, let me tell you, I went camping last night out at Seneca, and I figured I'd go fishing all day today. And I had my shorts and my T-shirt, my tackle box, and I walked outside, and I said, nope.
Opie ran back in.
And then I walked right back inside.
Oh, you didn't have to stay in a tent, though.
No, I didn't have a tent there.
I don't want people thinking you were trying to rough it. Your idea of roughing it's in the in a camper with satellite TV.
My dad's idea of roughing it is sitting in a camper. That's what he said. He said,
and I like his idea.
He said as soon as he got rich, his idea of roughing it changed drastically.
Absolutely. Growing up, we always camped in tents. Then we got a camper, a big trailer thing. It was like bedrooms and stuff. And then a tent? You've got to be joking. Now it's like, if I am not in a motel or a hotel, I am not going.
Yeah, see, I usually keep a tent sitting out in the little yard area in front of his camper. And that's where I sleep because that's what I like. That's the fun about camping. You're out there and you're sleeping on rocks and cooking wieners on the fire.
Yeah, and fighting ants and mosquitoes and deadly raccoons and that's
you just
so
have
much
a miserable
fun.
time, don't you?
Give me a hotel with room service and a pool.
Oh,
that's...
This turned to sound like Green Acres argument at the beginning.
Yep, really.
Give me Park Avenue.
It is the life for me.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. Well, Jordan, you're at the... What's happening to where you're at?
I am at the Market House Grill down here in Elm Grove, having a great time. Got all kinds of people here to see the Whispers happen live. Food's pouring out. We got the special today, $10 for a pound of wings and a bucket of beer, and then $1 domestics, $2 well drinks. Why would anybody pass that up? Come out here and spend some time with me.
Have you ate?
Have I ate yet? No, I'm on a hunger strike until Lola comes down here, or until somebody cooks me something. JT, and
I knew your hunger strikes. They don't last long.
My hunger strikes last until I find food.
Jordan sees some injustice. I won't eat anymore.
I'm like Gandhi.
What's that?
Oh yeah, I don't have a cause yet.
Now, we were talking before, and I want to make sure we touch on this stuff again because it's important.
Yeah.
We're going June 30th to the prison. If anybody wants to go and see you run through the prison, scared half to death, cowering in a corner,
or see Nick scream like a girl when bats fly around him,
then that I can guarantee will happen. A lot.
So come out. We're charging $65. Usually the pen overnight's is $60.
And that's a deal to see me cower in fear from the bats swooping at my head.
But,
Lola, you saw that. Wasn't that fun?
Yes, it did. Definitely did make the night.
My favorite though was I was walking into the what is that, the boiler room they call it? Going down into the basement.
Yeah.
And I was walking, and I cannot remember who it was in front of me. I think it was
Kelly.
Was it Kelly? And the one that got in her hair?
Oh, no, that wasn't Kelly.
This woman, poor woman, because I can't remember her name first off. This bat comes in, and they were going, because you have to kind of think it's like an intersection here. And she had walked right into the middle of the intersection, and like two bats come through. She swoops from the first one, like dives down. Second one got caught in her hair. It's great fun, people. And there's Ghost.
See, but the great thing about this year, Nick, which you neglected to say, we have Dwayne Claude coming from New York City, who's a demonologist, to give a presentation on demonology, courtesy of the Grandview Park in Moundsville. We have Herb Street coming to teach his special method, his Herb Street method. We have Sherry Brake coming to dispense her wealth of knowledge.
Babysit me is why Sherry's
Lola.
coming.
She probably is just coming for you, Lola.
No, she loves
just
you guys.
Save you from us. And
you get a T-shirt, right?
Yes.
So I mean, come on, name a place in the valley that does that. No, nobody but Whispers.
I was about the name. Never mind.
Huh? What?
No, I'm sorry.
So go out there, whispersradio.com. You got a place right at the top that says, what's it say, Ghost Hunt?
Yeah, I think it says Ghost Hunt.
You click on Ghost Hunt. It talks about kind of what we're doing, and you can purchase your ticket right there.
And it's secure. It's going through PayPal. Nobody's getting your information but them. So what more do you need? So
it's good times. It's good times, and it's. I know it's a Wednesday, and a lot of people are thinking maybe Wednesday is bad to do something like this, but you know what? It's worth it. You can take a day off work.
Yeah, take a personal day or vacation day or
a
sick day or just lie.
You woke up with diarrhea that morning. You couldn't go to work.
Wow.
Too
much information on that one, but everybody can come up with their own disease. Well,
cleverest disease you call off for work. Maybe we'll give you
an extra prize. That's right. That's right. Okay, we do have our guest on the phone.
All right, Nick, you want to introduce the guest?
I can do that. I'm going to try and Sean, you can tell me if I messed this, just destroy your name. S.M. Belekurov, but we're going to call you Sean B. Or Sean.
That works much better, yeah. That works much better. And actually, I was going to enjoy the interview, but I came down with a bad case of hypertrichosis. So, porphyria. What can you do?
See, but I have to be able to know what the disease is.
It's the werewolf and vampire disease.
There you go.
It's a full moon. I can't come in today.
Exactly.
You're the author of the 2012, and I actually have it right in front of me. Not sure if Jordan does because he's not in front of me, but 2012, the Paranormal Cookbook. Before I even opened it up, you win the award for the greatest cover ever.
Thank you.
You have a gray, a man in black, Heath Ledger's Joker, and a werewolf playing cards.
Yeah, it's kind of a parody of the classic Dogs Playing Poker, which I grew up with, so I put a little spin on it.
Now, why do you have a picture of President Obama behind them?
Yeah. Well, originally, actually, it was going to be Bush because Bush was, and all this stuff kind of ties in together. But we went with Obama because he was in office, and there's a lot of people out there that kind of, perceive politicians as tricksters, and we kind of go into some of the trickster stuff in our text. So we figured, it'd be good to put it in there. Plus 2012, Obama's around until at least 2012, so we dated ourselves.
Now, what exactly? Where did you get the idea for this? How do you get into this? First off, I know you run a group out. You're in St. Louis, correct?
Springfield, which is a little bit south.
I always say St. Louis. I don't know why. Springfield. What exactly is the name of your group?
Okay, we got Spooks. That's the name of the group, which stands for Springfield Paranormal Organization Operating with Kinetic Surveillance.
Wow.
It's a mouthful. That's why we don't put it on the business cards. 10-mile long business.
You need
cards.
A long one.
Exactly. But there's me. I'm the primary field investigator, the paranormal profiler, which I go through. Basically, it's a fancy term I made up for just having to do a bunch of research on all things paranormal. My wife is originally from South Korea, and her mom is what's called a Mungdang, which is like a Korean shaman. She's actually been consulted by Buddhist monks and even the first female presidential candidate in Korean history. So she's Jenny, which is my wife. Since her mom's kind of had that ability, I think it passed on to her, and she really is the one that gets the really good photographs for us as far as anomalies on film and this type thing. And then we got a couple other members. We got a videographer and a guy that does background research and some of another one that deals with folklore. But that's the core of the team. So.
Now, do you guys get a lot of interesting cases there?
Yeah, most lately we've been looking into some werewolf sightings along the Arkansas-Missouri border and the Missouri-Oklahoma border. This time last year we were chasing around Paul the Nixa Hellhound, which is what took about 4 months of investigating, just kind of chasing our tails. It's the classic hellhound. I mean, it's hellhounds are the dogs, the kind of ghost dogs, big black ghost dogs generally, that kind of haunt the highways around the world, and they're pretty much in every culture.
Oh, wow.
And we have our own history here that dates back to the 1880s.
Now I got to ask how you find evidence of a werewolf to.
Yeah, that's it's one of those kind of things that is very. There's not a whole lot you can do besides trying to do tracking, taking statements, these type things, because it's so sporadic generally. Possibly if you're up in Wisconsin or Michigan with the dog man, you got a better chance of but we're really chasing our tails, unintended on that one.
Yeah.
It's you take people's sightings, you try to gauge whether or not they seem to be a credible witness, whether they experience something real. You go out to the site, kind of check it out, look for any physical disturbances, physical evidence that might have been left. And you kind of go from there. But I mean, trying to the only way you're going to prove a werewolf is you catch one and put it in a cage, So.
I wouldn't want to see what would happen. Better you than me on that one. I mean, I see this, and I don't know why I get this image, but someone's got this cage kind of set up like the stick and a string.
Right, with a carrot or something in there.
It's like, what do you trap a werewolf with? I don't know. But
I don't know either.
But I have a feeling it's going to go right through the cage. So
yeah, I'm thinking so. No, but it was an interesting article I read a little while ago. It was by an anthropologist over from one of the Ivy League schools. I can't remember which one, but he was talking about how Darwin, in essence, killed the werewolf because ever since Darwin's evolution theory and the men from monkeys theory kind of took hold, there's been a big uptick in men apes and Bigfoots and Sasquatches and these type animals, whereas we used to see it much more with werewolves. So he thinks that the focus has shifted, but we're still seeing the same thing. We're just perceiving it differently. And I thought that was an interesting position for a Ivy League academic to take.
Now, going through the book, how did you start getting the ideas of what you were going to go into? Because the book itself is just chock full of everything. I was going to sit down and go straight through, but I decided just to flip through and start finding stuff I was interested in, and then go back and get the rest.
Right, and that's that's one of the things that's good about it is it does have somewhat short sections. So if you find something you dig, you can read it and move on, or you can kind of look to see how it plays out in the whole theory. Basically, the concept, the theory, as far as the individual participants or the people that are going to investigate, and that they affect the manifestation process. That's kind of an old theory, but what really kind of just got me to put pen to paper was just kind of synchronistic events that surrounded my daughter's birth, and that just kind of got me inspired to actually get it down on paper and put it out there. And with the 2012 focal point, that kind of serves as a concrete position. You know, most of the time when you have prophecies, they're very ambiguous and they don't have dates, and it's very much up to interpretation. And there is plenty of that surrounding 2012 as well, but it's the first time in a long time we've had a firm date that can be confirmed, you know, at least to some degree academically. So I think that, and I think you're going to see more and more people, you know, you're going to see History Channel's already got, 2012 programs like on a couple times a week, so I think you're going to see that consciousness of that date and the possibilities expand.
Yeah, see, I'm starting to get more and more convinced that it's going to be more of a self-fulfilling prophecy than anything else. You know,
and there's that dynamic at work too, because I mean, every generation has had somebody saying the end of the world is coming in our lifetime. Every generation has never failed, and this has been true back to the time of Christ. So I mean, that's nothing new. But the convergence of so many of these aspects, and it would, and through our theory, you know, self-fulfilling prophecy absolutely would be consistent, because kind of our theory is that the consciousness will dictate what reality we have. So if enough people are expecting doom and gloom, then that's a likely scenario. But I mean, we've had some very strong evidence to support the idea that we could be going. I mean, if you just look at the Earth changes, which can be somewhat subjective, you know, it's kind of open to interpretation. But I mean, the fact that, you know, the earthquake in Chile literally shifted the pole off its axis. It made the day just infinitesimally shorter. You know, it's barely able to read, but that indicates there was an actual pole shift. And that's one of the things that people have been saying, well, it's fake science, there's not going to be a pole shift. Well, there's already happened a pole shift, and we're still almost 3 years out. So I mean, you get with this and a lot of the earthquake activity and a lot of this other stuff that's not so subjective as far as it's happening over and over, and it's at a higher degree than what's normally recorded. It seems like the Earth is going through some kind of hullabaloo, so I guess we'll see kind of how that shakes out. I kind of got a dual theory on that. I think the Earth is probably going to keep going the way it's going and kind of self-destruct, because if you look at the nature, the pathology of like organisms, they tend to get rid of a disease. Mankind does tend to be a disease. But at the same time, we have the opportunity with the information and the consciousness to kind of evolve to that next, hopefully that non-corporeal, that astral level where we're kind of at this next level of being. And whether or not that happens, we'll see how it shakes out.
Now, going into the book, I know there were some things that I told you I know we wanted to talk about. First and foremost, and kind of going into the synchronicity or maybe even coincidence.
Yeah.
Phantom clowns. Now, I was at
there
a party.
We go. Ew, and I have this real thing about clowns. Wow. I read that today and just went, ew.
Yeah, there's a lot of these colorphobias or something. It's, there's a nice little picture for you of the clown in there. So.
What a phantom clown is. Is that
okay,
like somebody who was dressed as a clown that died and is like haunting people as a clown? Because that is ridiculous.
What is yeah, right? That's just disturbing, because that means Delman Gates is out there.
That is going to be my nightmare for the next like 8 years of my life.
Right. That's the Attack of the Killer Clowns.
Oh, guys.
Oh, God. All right, we got pop culture reference in there. All right.
Hey, I like that movie. That was an awesome movie.
I love it, man. The cotton candy cocoons was the best, man. How could you
yeah.
The imagery, you know, genius. But I digress. Now, the Phantom Clowns are now people that it's not assumed that they may be people that have died and come back as clowns. The Phantom Clown phenomena was first documented by Warren Coleman. He kind of followed the flap that started in 1981. It started on the East Coast, and it spread all the way to Kansas City, Kansas, which is just a little bit west of where I am. So talking about whole half of the U.S. Basically, what was occurring, and it was occurring enough that they had police and social workers go to talk to these kids at all these schools, you know, in Boston, Dover, a lot of places in Maryland, and all across the U.S. Tell them to avoid these, you know, these men that were dressed as clowns that were trying to invite kids with either a candy or balloons into a van. Which, you know, you would think that common sense would dictate, but, you know, kids, what can you do?
Not do that.
Right. So, and this is actually, it ties in a lot to where actually the term "don't take candy from strangers" comes from. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. what was happening was these kids would see clowns that would be trying to get them to come into their van and assumingly abduct them. Now the interesting part was during this clown flap they never caught any of these perpetrators. Now they almost uniformly, almost in every instance, there was some kind of defect with the car. There was a broken taillight, or there was a headlight missing, or the ladder was ripped off the van, or there was always some kind of deficiency. And throughout this whole time, there was never one that was pulled over. There was, in Kansas City, Kansas, they chased a machete-wielding clown from 6 different schools. 6 different schools reported two clowns, one with a machete showing up. And
a machete-wielding clown at schools?
Machete-wielding clown outside the schools, yeah.
Oh,
and the cops chased them all over Kansas City, Kansas, and they never did catch them. And they never caught any of these people. Like I said, it's kind of interesting because of the fact that all these vehicles have reports of, having a taillight or this or that. You would think that, and I don't want to give anybody ideas, but, if a pedophile was out there, I would think that they would want to make sure that their vehicle was in tip-top shape, because you don't want to get pulled over at a random traffic stop, if you got a 6-year-old.
Don't catch all your machetes and chopped up kids.
Right. So that occurred from it occurred for about 18 months, but it was about a 6-month flap that was pretty consistent. A lot of incidents were reported. Now, some of the detractors tried to say that, well, it was that was because the Stephen King movie came out, and the Stephen King book It came out.
Yeah.
And Coleman points out that was 5 years after the first printing of It was in 1986, 5 years after the Phantom Clowns. So, anyways, we flash forward to today. There was a minor outbreak in the late 80s, and there's been a new outbreak in 2009 in Chicago, and it started in Wicker Park, which Wicker is a name that has some occult connotations, and we kind of touch on that. We talk about devil names and some of these others like Lafayette, and how names kind of play a role in what paranormal manifests. But anyways, they got the first report from a Wicker Park, and then the cops said that they had reports throughout the city. We kind of tie it together in with the Curse of the Joker in this way. Chicago has an archetype template for clowns. They're a very strong clown thing, and I'll explain that in a second. The first Ronald McDonald was from Illinois. The serial killer John Wayne Gacy, that was the clown serial killer, was from Chicago. You have Bozo, who was probably the most known clown in the U.S., but if not the U.S., then at least the Midwest. You have several clown aspects that are already tied into Chicago. Now, what was interesting was these clown appearances started just after the release of the new Batman, the Dark Knight film, where Heath Ledger had passed away during his role in that. And, so you have this iconic image that, everybody was thinking about Ledger and that Joker performance, and it was really resonating in the conscience. People were kind of tuning into that. And I think that with the history of the clown sightings in Chicago, and coupled with the clown consciousness that was surrounding the Joker and Ledger's role, that kind of created the conditions that would manifest that. And the last thing is that the Dark Knight movie was filmed primarily in Chicago, so you could have something of a psychic resonance that was applied there. So.
Wow.
Long story short story long.
Now, I know back when I was younger, I remember for some reason, and I lived in rural, as rural as you can get.
Right.
In southern West Virginia, and there was a point where I knew there was a family was talking about it, and I've been wanting to try to get hold of my dad or my mom just to talk to them and see if they remember it, where there was supposedly these people dressing as clowns driving around in a van trying to give people or kids poisoned candy or abduct them or whatever. And this was back in the early 80s. I remember
you would think they would get caught.
Well, especially there of any place,
Right. You think a clown would stick out there as opposed to the city. But
exactly. And I don't understand, but I remember hearing about that, and when I was looking through that, I was like, that reminds me of that.
Yeah,
really young, maybe in kindergarten.
If you do get a chance to talk to your mom or your pops, and they've been shedding light on that, shoot that to me. I'd love to hear about it.
Oh yeah, I'll make sure I check and see. And it might have just been me putting 2 and 2 together and adding clowns into the story. Now, you talked about Dark Knight, going off of that a little bit. with the curse, kind of the curse of that movie, with Heath Ledger kind of getting into the character. A lot of people think that's what brought him to his death. He also mentioned some other movies where, kind of tragedy came through.
Yeah, that attached itself to the and it ties in kind of with the main concept of our book, and that you can create your own reality. Basically, with these movies, what you have is a big, large group of people that are coming together, working on a single thought, a single idea. Basically, maybe 2 hours long, but it's a single thought stream. And when you put this dynamic together with a lot of these psychologically darker movies, such as Exorcist, Poltergeist, I can't remember a bunch of the other ones, Dark Knight. There's like 4 or 5 on the list. You have the right chemistry to create basically a curse, because it's working with dark psychological matter, stuff that would very much kind of stick in somebody's head. And then you're working as a group and you're putting that effort together. So the occult people in the Hebrew and a lot of different traditions recognize this. And one word for it is egregore, which just basically means a group thought form that has that takes on a life of its own. Now, we kind of see this, and then it's usually with the darker movies that we do see the curses, and I think that's because of the psychological themes. But if you remember, the first thing that Nicholson told the reporters when he found out that Ledger was dead was, "I warned him." Now, he later went on to say, "Well, I was talking about Ambien, about the use of Ambien," which is totally plausible, but it's a very cryptic comment to make, right after, you're talking to the first Joker, that tell him that the new Joker just died, So there's definitely some interesting aspects of that, and then, you get into the synchronicity and kind of some of the outlandish synchronicity, like I think it was, I want to say it was Omen, where you had within a 24-hour period, I think it was Gregory Peck and I think the director of the movie were on separate airplanes, and both those airplanes got struck by lightning within a 24-hour period.
Oh, wow.
And then you got that. You put on top of that, there was a day they were supposed to film these lions in the film, and for some reason the lion people were overbooked or something transpired where they couldn't do it that day. So they decided to shoot the next day, but they found out the next day that they couldn't do it basically because that day the lions had mauled and killed a security guard.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I mean, you start working with some of these things, and you just see some really weird stuff that really defies statistical probability. And I think that it's kind of like that. You talk about self-fulfilling prophecy, and that's a lot of the way the curse works. Is if you acknowledge something like that, it's more likely to happen. So I think if you have groups of people working on something, it's much more likely to manifest in reality. And that's the whole idea behind prayer and that type of thing. I mean, because even if you look at like the word mass is a group, a big group. So I mean, when you go into mass, you're going to group, and that just kind of, I think, amplifies the request or the prayer or whatever form you're going in. I think it just amplifies it, magnifies it, whenever you have a group dynamic working.
Now, have you ever heard of the Philip experiment?
Oh yeah. You talk, the Canadian cat, right? The group that created Philip the Ghost.
Yeah, I was
thinking it's in there.
That kind of reminded me of, for some reason, that reminded me of that, where you have a group of people that are trying to create something, and it does manifest, and that kind of reminded me of that.
And the first thing we'd point out is that Philip never lived. He's not a ghost. He was never a living person. He was a totally fictional character. They created a backstory for him. I think the backstory went along the lines of he was having an affair with a gypsy lady. The wife found out, killed the gypsy, so Philip committed suicide. They took pictures of the house where they were going to say he lived and all this stuff.
Yeah,
they had the whole backstory.
I think we had a show on that, or that we talked about that a number of months ago, where we just talked about, what you can conjure up.
Right, no, absolutely. And they were having, they had massive success, and there's been other ones that have done since. There was the Bachelor Door experiments that were similar to that. So basically, what they do is they create a seance atmosphere, and they eventually were able to construct this thing that could, lift the table, that could slide the table around, that could levitate people, that could bend a key even. And a lot of the stuff went on whenever they weren't even there. So I mean, that's what's really interesting, is either they were all focusing at the same time, or the other possibility is the entity developed some kind of consciousness of himself and actually operated outside of the people that created them. And that's kind of when we get into tulpas and some of that shadow, the shadow case out in Greenwich Village, where you create something that exists beyond, the actual creators. That's when it really gets interesting, because that's on the level of magic. And then when you start to get into quantum physics and some of this other stuff that we've really been looking into in the past 10 years as paranormal investigators, you kind of see that the science is kind of catching up to a lot of the ideas that were once occult or were once religious, and that it's validating it more and more, because we're moving into this universe where we understand that more and more of what we expect and our expectations, how they actually manifest that reality.
Now,
I think it's really
interesting.
I
want to ask you, while we still have time left, because I find this a topic just as creepy as your clowns. And I think Nick had mentioned to you that we really wanted to talk about it already. These black-eyed kids.
Yeah,
they're much creepier than the clowns.
Because let's face it, little kids are creepy anyway.
Absolutely. I mean, and there's nothing creepier than a kid ghost. I'll take a roaring boogeyman over a kid ghost any day, because there is that.
Just like in The Shining,
element
the
of
two twins
creepiness.
that are just standing at the end of the hallway. It's just ridiculous.
Absolutely.
Why are they there? Why do they need to be there?
Right? Yeah, no doubt. That's what That's why Stephen King stuck them in The Shining movie.
Yeah.
No, the black-eyed kids have been a phenomenon, and we've had reports of people with black eyes and demons with black eyes and vampires with black eyes for a century. So that's nothing new.
Yeah, and we're not talking about like the black eyes that got beat up. Like this is like their pupils and everything.
Nor the black-eyed peas, which always pops up when I try to do a BUK search. So, no, the black-eyed peas, black-eyed kids. Yeah, I know, right? I had to throw myself. The black-eyed kids, basically, this origin of their star was around the late 1990s, around 98, I believe it was. There was a freelance journalist in Texas by the name of Brian Bethel, who gave his first encounter, and it was pretty much consistent with what we see generally as being the core of the reports. Basically what happens is a couple kids, sometimes as many as 5, but usually 2, will approach your either car or your door. They'll knock and they'll startle you because they caught you, not paying attention. You kind of scold yourself for jumping about, it's just a bunch of kids, but you roll down your window, you open the door a crack, and you talk to them. They start out, with a pretense like, oh, well, my friend was just in an accident. I need to use the phone to call the police, or I need a ride to the store. My mom, needs to get her medicine, and we don't have any way to get there. Some pretense, and they'll try to get inside your house or inside your car. In Bethel's case, he actually noticed that even though he had no intention to let him in the car, he saw his hand was just drifting towards the lock, almost by itself,
like they were controlling him.
Right, like an element of mesmerism. And usually, of the 2 kids, there's a smaller one and a larger one. They kind of have a Lenny and George and mice and men thing going on. The little one's talkative, kind of slick. He seems much more kind of sneaky. The big one seems like he's a big chowderhead, basically, for lack of a better term. Yeah. And so, anyways, you keep resisting and say, yeah, you can't come in. I'll make a call for you, or whatever the excuse you give them. You don't let them in. And eventually, they become more and more persistent, and they tell you, you have to invite me in, or you have to let me in. You have to ask me to come in. And there's a lot of that in a lot of these stories. Not in every story, but in a lot of these stories, there's you have to invite me, you have to let me, you have to ask me. So basically, what happens is you don't let them in. What'll happen next is that they'll walk down the hall, or they'll walk down the street, and they'll turn a corner. Usually, people will go and try to see where they went off to, because they're these are strange beings with black eyes and kids, and they're of course gone. So that's another element of the supernatural scene. Now, in that little story we told there, you do have the elements that, until recently, it's really been black-eyed kids have kind of been put into this category of vampires and demons with the black eyes, with the asking the invitation, because you have to invite the vampire in through some forms of folklore. You have to invite the devil in, that type thing with the demons. Then you have the mesmerism, the almost hypnotizing you. You have the disappearing around corners and this type of stuff, which is all consistent with some of the demonology and some of the folklore on vampires. But what we found out was there was other consistencies that were not part of the vampire lore. Like I think if most people heard my story and they're thinking about black-eyed kids, they probably would see these like pale because of the vampire connection and the kind of Children of the Corn looking things.
Yeah, that's what I think of.
Right. That was my natural assumption too. Is in my head I could see
that Village of the Damned. They're all
exactly. That's exactly what I see in my head. But this is not actually what's reported. I think in 60% of our reports, the kids were. Oh, kids, I say, but whatever. Were dark-skinned. They were described as islanders. I've heard Haitian, Samoan, Hawaiian, Filipino. So there's a disconnect there. And the other thing that they really like to do, and we'll kind of illuminate why this is relevant, is they tend to wear either checkered pants, checkered shirts, or checkered hat. Now, this isn't all the time. It's something that comes on and off the radar, but it happens enough that it's considered to be a pattern. Now, the aspect of those two things that are relevant is that those are both characteristics that are kind of that are very closely related to the Men in Black phenomena, which was a lot of Keel's observations when he was down in West Virginia. Yeah. He noticed that these people that were Men in Black, they were exotic looking.
That happened right by us. That's not too far from us.
You just said something that might get us never off the air. Jordan's a huge Mothman.
I won't go into it. Okay.
We'll say that for another show.
We'll have to confab, because I'm a big fan of Keel, and I love the whole. There's a whole freaking thing there. Don't even get me started, because they blew that movie out of the water because there was so much strangeness going on. But anyway, throughout the Mothman prophecies, he talks about the Men in Black and some of the women in white, and some of this other stuff. But they're almost always exotic. They've been described as gypsies, dark color people, possibly Negro. And this is something we've seen. Also, then with the fan of the Mothman prophecies, there's the grinning ghost.
That was my favorite one.
Right.
See, and I've heard that also with the black-eyed kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
The grinning.
Yeah, they have a demonic grin often. Actually, we kind of go into one of the stories of one of the stories we got from a trucker, and I won't get into it because it's kind of long. But the point being is, at the end, she just had this demonic smile that was pulled up, almost halfway up her face, where it possibly couldn't be. She seemed to have too many teeth and all kinds of madness. So, but there's those two elements that we talked about: the checkered shirt, the checkered gear, and the darker colors, the darker features, is something that's interesting because those are not things that people would normally associate with the black-eyed kids, if you just kind of made it up as you went along, because they're counterproductive, they're counterintuitive. You think vampires, Children of the Corn, like we all did, you get the Village of the Damned, and that's kind of I think that kind of lends a little bit of credibility to the site. That doesn't mean it can't be made up or exaggerations or hallucinations, but it just adds a little bit of credibility because there is a pattern that it fits that's already been established in other places.
Yeah.
Now, I know I was just reading a book from Jim Butcher's new Dresden File book, and it reminded me, because I was reading through your Black-Eyed Kids section, there's this thing where you have to invite people in,
right.
And it's based on the magic of households. That if you don't invite them in, like if somebody comes to my door, I'm afraid of whatever they could do to me in my house,
right.
They say, well, can I come in? And I said, well, I don't know, can you? And if they pass through the threshold, they lose their powers to some extent. They leave it at the door because that's your home that you've made.
Right.
Maybe some kind of
energy.
What's that?
No, I said it just contains cumulative energy.
Exactly. Now, do you think maybe there's some kind of aspect of that to this?
Yeah, there definitely could be.
That they can't harm them if they can't be invited in?
Yeah, there definitely could be an aspect because it is consistent enough that we are seeing it listed over and over and over again. So I think there's definitely something there. When there's smoke, there's fire. So it absolutely could be because, it's just
I think there's a part that we're not paying attention to here. Beyond the whole inviting in and all that kind of stuff, if you have a kid coming up with jet black eyeballs and wants to do anything with you, why would you let him in?
Yeah, it is a little
weird. No, I'll get my shotgun,
You would never shoot a kid.
I would. A kid comes at me, I'll shoot him.
You heard it here first. Just in time for the trial. Now, Sean, what is? Because I there's all kinds of stuff in here. And I found the Philip thing, so now I've got that marked to where I can go read it later. What is your favorite thing in this book? What is your favorite thing to research? I mean, other than kill, you just mentioned.
Right. There's a lot of aspects. I think one of the more interesting parts was kind of the psychology of the paranormal, in that, you know, in a lot of ways we kind of divorce the human element out of these interactions. We try to look at it as objective observers, but of course, anything we observe has to pass through a perceptual filter. It has to pass, you know, we can't observe something outside the mind. And that's the same with all information. So I find it interesting that a lot of these phenomena seem to be much more interactive than what we first thought. And I think we started to see that a little bit in Mothman, and that's been continued in like Contact Ranch, Skinwalker Ranch, the mystery.
Like the Jersey Devil too. Exactly.
It evolves, and it kind of, and that was one observation I had made about the Hellhound, was that it seems like that this specific entity, the Hellhound around here, pops up about once every generation. It's almost as if to reinforce that it exists, and it'll go back into obscurity for another 20 years, and then pop up again.
Now, with the psychology of paranormal, some of that is, I know some people like Lola is dying to see something. Now, we're going to the prison in June, near here, West Virginia State Penitentiary. Is there any aspect of somebody that could prepare themselves so that they might be able to experience something?
To be more open?
Yeah, you can definitely work some astral dreaming techniques and stuff, because you're working a lot of this ghost manifesting this type things. Some of it is objective and it's attached to a certain place, but a lot of it is kind of transient. And I think if you can tap into the subconscious, I think you can see a lot more than what we can here in the West. Like in the East, they're seeing spirits all the time, and I don't mean like metaphorically, but they literally see spirits. And I've seen some amazing things just through my mom's, through my wife's mom's practices and stuff that defy any rational explanation. So I think if you kind of put yourself in that state of mind, you're much more susceptible. It's just the idea of like attracts like, and then once you've seen something, it's much easier to see it again because it's already been established in what you believe. Until you see something, it's just a story. It's just a book. It's just something else that somebody else experienced. What you experienced becomes.
So you think Lola should just like totally immerse herself into all things paranormal until she goes? I'm sitting in my room right now. I have 350 books about paranormal. I've got Bigfoot tracks. I've got pictures of ghosts and everything. So yeah, I'm a believer in that. Yeah, if you surround yourself by that type thing, you're much more likely to be able to witness it. But at the same time, I have such a problem. Like when I go out by myself or with another crew member, I hit about 2 to 5%, usually lower, but 2 to 5% for anomalies on film. Now, if I take my wife out, it bumps up to over 30%. Which is just insane. Yeah. So.
Where you live? Okay, I might make a road trip. I want to take a trip with your wife.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think part of it is is the fact that she comes from the line of people that work with spirits anyways.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is that I believe in it. That might play a dynamic too. But yeah, every time we go out with her, man, I mean, there's only been one trip where we didn't get anything, and I just don't think there's anything to get there. But every time we get. I think the wildest one I seen that recently that she got was she got an orb, which is not anything particularly interesting, but the orb was actually, it had the same colorings of the Pepsi sign, the blue and the red swatch. And if you look at the South Korean flag, that's the middle of the absolutely. So I think that the orb was probably there, but she projected an image on it, is what I'm thinking. Something like Ted Sirius or something along those. So.
What, Jordan?
I said, you think that your wife projected the image on it?
I think that there was an orb there. I think there was something there in objective reality, but I think she projected that
pattern
image onto. Yeah, it's kind of like if you go back into like the whole alien abduction versus fairy abduction thing. The whole thing is very, very similar. You have fairy reeds, you have crop circles, you have feminine aliens, you have feminine fairies, you have bright light from an unknown source, the levitation, the paralysis, sometimes the ingestion, having to drink a bitter substance before going on the trip. So there's a lot of the alien hybrid thing is also, fairy, because the fairies back in the day was fairies stole my kid and replaced him with a fairy.
That's a doppelganger.
So yeah, exactly. I mean, you have a lot of things that I think that are probably objective events that happen really, but it's just a matter of how we interpret it. like now, since we live in the age of aliens and future and whatever, that's how we interpret it. But back then, we lived in the age of fairies and magic, so that's how we interpret it. So I think it's just a matter of how we're interpreting it. And I think it's becoming more and more evident that there's something interactive, that's something that's working to try to establish itself, in whatever form.
Gia Tree, by the way, says hello, Sean.
Who's that?
Gia Tree. I guess you've been on our show before.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Tell her I said hello. That's great.
Now, I heard you mention Bigfoot earlier, and Jordan hates Bigfoot. Jordan has
Bigfoot.
You hate Bigfoot.
If I was going to believe in something, it wouldn't be Bigfoot.
You get angry every time we mention Bigfoot.
And 2% of the proceeds of my book go to the Jerky for Sasquatch Funds. I mean, I'll piss them off.
I'll have to run out and buy 10 copies right now.
Right? Yeah, if I happen to be Sasquatch, I sure am going to offer some jerky because I don't like it on his bad side. Anyways, yeah. So, what's your beef with Bigfoot?
We don't believe in it, actually.
Believe in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is to put it bluntly.
We get a lot of shows that stretch what I may or may not believe, and I'm comfortable saying that without revealing it.
Well, actually, Jordan and I had from who was that?
I don't remember his name.
I don't either. He was going to fly us out there.
To Arizona.
And let us go on this expedition with them and sleep out in the desert and all this stuff. The kicker was, though, we had to pay for our own way home. So, needless to say, no road trip.
But
no
road trip.
That's a little bit of an expensive.
You get the offer like that, and he says, "Yeah, come out here, and I'm staying in Arizona until I find something."
Yeah,
it's like,
right.
So you wasn't there for a long time.
Right on. The Bigfoot, is a point of contention for so many people because it's a whole thing. Because you've got your flesh and blood cryptozoologists who believe that there could be some kind of North American ape, or think there could be possibly, there's evidence, and there's some dermal evidence that's suggestive and these type of things. But at the same time, you have so many Bigfoot reports that have so many elements of the supernatural.
Yeah.
A lot of times you'll have them. In the 70s we had Bigfoots wearing checkered shirts, like Paul Bunyan lookalikes or something. You have Bigfoots in the proximity of UFOs, sometimes coming out of UFOs.
Yeah.
Hey, you start taking this stuff to a flesh and blood cryptozoologist, and they're going to laugh you out of the room, my friend. So I think that it's really hard to kind of look at, and Nessie's another one that I think is probably more of an astral type projection than an actual flesh and blood entity. Because in a lot of the places that these lakes sit, there's not enough food source to supply a family of plesiosaurs or large eels or whatever it is.
Yeah, we've heard the gigantic eel theory.
Yeah, it's the gigantic eel theory is more plausible to me than the plesiosaur. Yeah, but still, I don't know. I like I said, there's places where like in the Skinwalker Ranch case, there's the lake that they have down there. It was man-made. Yeah. Within the people remember it being made, but they still have reports of this snake sea monster thing that has dragged people to their death and such. So I think
from
again, I
back
think
in the dinosaur times when it wasn't there.
Right. Yeah. Right, exactly. So, I mean,
they dug too deep.
It's hard to introduce a plesiosaur to a controlled environment like that. So I think that we're dealing with something, not all the time in cryptozoology, but with your werewolves, possibly your Bigfoots that are probably something that's interdimensional or that is an archetype that's part of our hardwired into our brain and our belief systems, and that's how we interpret it. But that's all psychic or psychoanalytical mumbo jumbo. So that's speculation on my part.
It was Tom Biscardi, by the way, that was going to bring you guys out there.
Yeah, it was him. Well, we haven't heard from him lately. I didn't see any tickets coming FedEx.
Yeah.
He might not be. He might have found something.
That's true. Maybe Bigfoot decided to have him for dinner.
And it's Gia Scott. I have no idea what I'm talking about. What am I doing?
I was like, I know G. Oh, okay. My apologies for not getting it off the top.
Sean, we don't let Nick read.
Yeah.
I read well. I just don't read right.
I'm half Mexican. I can barely read it all. So. It's
Oh.
all good. It's all love.
Oh, that was him. That was not us.
Yeah, we'll get hate mail.
I will get hate mail. You guys.
Send it to me.
Yeah.
You know, send it to me.
It was Jordan that said it.
Jordan gets all the hate mail. They just tell me how much they love me all the time.
And they ignore me.
Yeah.
You're looking at the right place then.
Well, listen, the time's just about up, you guys.
Right.
Oh, no.
I know. This has been a great night. We've had two really great, well, three actually, guests on tonight, and it's been so much fun.
Sean, we do have your book on our website, whispersradio.com. Got a picture of it. You can click on it, and it'll go to Amazon, I believe.
And we have your website for going to Spooks Up, too, so.
Cool. Yeah, it's you can hit it at paranormalcookbook.com or spooksfield.com. It's all your fine stores and all that good stuff. I'll get that out there so my publicist doesn't, kick me in my pants next time I see him.
All right. Well, tell your wife that the first time I'm out that way, I'm definitely giving you guys a call.
I may actually have to give you guys a holler. I'm planning on going down for the Mothman Festival, so close to your neck of the woods.
Well, you should come over to the prison with us in June. We've got tickets
I may have
left.
to do that. I may have to send me some info. Is it on your website, you said?
Yeah, if you go to our website and click on Ghost Hunt, it's June 30th. It's a Wednesday, which is kind of a weird day, but Wednesday into Thursday, 6 hours. It's cheap. There's a demonologist going to be talking.
Yeah,
all kinds of crazy
it
stuff.
sounded really interesting.
Hey, Sean, I want to interrupt you guys real quick. We got a guy here at the Market House wants to know what spooks, what that stood for again.
Springfield Paranormal Organization operating with kinetic surveillance. It's a mouthful.
Yes, it is.
That's why it goes by Spooks. That's why it goes by
I have to ask you, did you look and say, I want the name to be Spooks, we got to find something to match this?
Yeah, which came first?
Exactly. Okay, I like this name. I got to figure out an acronym that it's going to fit. So I just kind of played with words and that's going to sound halfway now. It wasn't nonsensical. So.
Oh, we're starting to lose you, but
you're starting to break up now.
But I think I know what you said. You like the name, you figured out a way to do it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do.
That's right.
That's right.
Hey, Sean, we want to thank you again. We had a great time. You will be hearing from us again.
Okay. Yeah, anytime you want to talk about anything paranormal, anything like that. Like I said, I've got a huge library, and all I do is read and do field work. So anything you want to talk about, we can go at it.
That's all.
We'll have you back
great.
for sure.
Hey, thanks a lot, Sean.
Thanks, guys. You guys have a good night.
Have a
You
good
too.
night.
Take care. Bye.
What do you think?
What?
What do you think?
I think he's great.
I tonight was good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed both hours.
Now, see, I'm not 100% sold on the Ouija board book writing. I'm not.
Well, but now that I know what they meant by that, because the first thing I thought of was like you did. Wow, how tedious, spelling out every word. But if you're reading it and you're doing it into a tape recorder, and you guys were right, they should get voice recognition.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd speed up. They get 4 or 5 books out.
Yeah. That makes more sense. And why not? I mean, if you can open that kind of a channel with the spirit side,
yeah.
That's the most efficient way for them to get any warnings or whatever that they're thinking about out there. I just, like I said before, I would like to try it, but I want to try it with them.
You'd want to try it in a way that somebody other than you gets possessed.
That's right.
I'm.
One has to look out for one's best interest.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, well, Lo, I guess we are out of time. I want to let everybody, remind everybody, get your pen tickets now. Because if you wait too long, so many people waited till it was too late last year.
We had people emailing us at the end like, "Are there any tickets left?"
We had a back rain call list that was like 30 people long, and if you get on there quick, we won't sell your spots.
And we like I said before, you've already told me you have a list already started.
Yeah, I've already got a list of 15.
Yeah, and those people are like, "I'm definitely going," and they're ready to give you money, before we even picked a price.
Yeah.
So get on there, whispersradio.com. It'll say at the top, Ghost Hunt. Click on it, and it'll have a PayPal button. Click on it. That goes right to me. So
I'm gonna try to remember. I'm gonna because I know a lot of people came from out of state to get some hotels near the area, and maybe call and see if we can set up something for people.
And even if you're questioning out there whether or not, excuse me, whether or not you want to go, but you're afraid about hotel rooms, we can help you. We can hook you up with the local hotels. Grandview Park has been a big help. I know they have cabins. They have all kinds of stuff. They have really neat, really nice looking cabins. They're not very expensive. You know, you can plan a whole weekend trip.
Yep.
Well, let's get out of here, Jordan. Get you home and us home. So that sounds like it's it.
We got anybody for next week yet, Nikki?
I've got people, but I just want to make sure they're confirmed.
Okay.
So they're waiting for phone call back.
It's a surprise.
It's a surprise.
All right, next week, back in the studio. Great time for all. Until then, don't be afraid, only believe.